Welcome to the Dogger Pass podcast. I'm your host, Dan Tom, at Dan Tom MMA, and well, my hostess to the mostest, who's by my side. No, it's not the Mountain from Game of Thrones. It's Mad Lab Mike at Mad Lab MMA. What is up, Mike? Are you ready to talk some fights today, my friend?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, I'm ready. Hopefully, we actually keep a whole card together this week. Last week was diabolical, from switching, shaking, and moving, and then obviously what happened with the main event. But this card looks good. We got some rollover from the other card. Some of the guys that didn't fight last week are kind of rolling over into this card. Some of them have tougher matchups, actually, so we'll get into those. But yeah, this card's shaping up from top to bottom to be fun. This is going to be a fun Saturday for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that tease there. Some tougher, some bigger names, maybe not tougher. We'll see where we land. But yeah, last week was pretty crazy. We're not going to get too much into that, but I just do want to touch on it. That first off, a shout out to the YouTube comments and stuff. You know, hopefully we can earn your guys' positive approvals more, but a lot of kind stuff in the comments, and hopefully you guys are coming around to what we had. Obviously, you know, Paul and Cody were before us, for those of you asking. You know, they've been doing their thing on the Bookie Beatdown Network, but me and Mike here, we're going to be delivering things for you consistent, giving you our analysis and insight. And even on our first show, Mike, our very first show together, not the first one with Paul and Cody, but the one after that, right? What did we say? We talked about that, hey, we don't really realize that, you know, you got to think about with your handicapping and baking into the line of, like, you know, how much are these fighters having time to prep? How healthy are they going into things? And what do you know, with last week's card, which some people are calling the worst fight night card ever. I would say in the modern era, it's got a definitely, you know, a top three argument, if not number one. But we had the fallout of the main event. So obviously you can't really ever predict those things. So it is kind of unfair, but you know, we do talk about these things for a reason. And if I could just do a quick shameless plug, I just wrote an article better explaining these points so we can move on to the breakdowns here. But over at MMA Junkie, I wrote an op-ed, you know, the relentless UFC schedule and the corporatization of combat sports, to kind of explain that we all have a lot in common as far as what a lot of our complaints are. But that being said, we got a full slate this weekend. Any thoughts on last weekend, though, before we push on to this weekend, Mike?
No, I'm just, you know, the whole thing, it's crazy that, you know, we did discuss this, right? We did discuss this last week on the actual show, but, you know, I watch weigh-ins. I really hone in on my weigh-ins before I give my full audio. I do a live stream before the fight and everything like that. And I said in the live stream, after I watched the weigh-ins, I said, in my personal opinion, they should have pulled the plug. They should have IV'd her and just pulled the plug on the fight. You know, and that was way before. I mean, and my main culprit was not only the way she looked on the scale. You saw it, I saw it, everybody saw it. But the fact of the matter is when she got to face-offs, when they were facing each other's off, she tried to sell herself way too much to Erin. She tried to bully ball her in the face-off. And right there, I said, it's almost like when you get punched and you laugh, you're laughing, but that hurt. She was hurting. She was not in any condition to fight, you know. So I actually called that, and that took everybody off, believe it or not, of Macy on my site. A lot of guys actually cashed, even though they did not. I had one guy take first place in the tournament, even though that the fight didn't happen, just because I told him this is a possible nix of a fight. So if you, and a shameful plug for myself as well, if you guys are you know, into DFS, the wagering end of it, we break everything down over at the madlabmma.com. We do boxing, we do MMA. We do a live stream an hour before the fight where I talk about the weigh-ins. I talk about what can happen, what can't happen. And we're doing we got a great community Discord. So come over there and join us. I think we're going to do some giveaways this week too. And we go real deep into the windings of these fights. So I hope you guys will, you know, check us out.
And well, I can vouch for your text messages alone. You really broke it down beautifully. Shout out to my guy Clint, who does some post-weigh-in work. But man, your stuff was spot on, Mike. You kind of called it from the seizure to how it was going to go, and so I got the receipts to prove it. But we only bring that up is because there may or may not be some similar flags to watch for the scale this week.
Good segue.
Yeah, I know Mike's going to have his opinions. I'll have my own insight and opinions that hopefully won't be speaking out of school. But as you guys know, we will give you information where we have it, wherever our experiences cross over with these fighters, of course. Now we're going to go to UFC, of course, 316, headlined by another rematch, folks. You know, the UFC matchmakers, they love their rematches. We got Merab Dvalishvili. Of course, he is defending the bantamweight title. And, of course, unlike the last time, although it rubber band the line, He is your moderate favorite now at minus 265 with a comeback on the former champ, now challenger, Sugar Sean O'Malley, plus 225. Total market is set at 4.5 rounds with the over minus 285 and the under 4.5 rounds at plus 212, Mike. So they feel confident that Merab's going to win and perhaps win in the same fashion with the way the over is at. Where do you have this fight at in your mind, Mike?
Well, you know, I'm going to bring a little bit different perspective here. We can all listen to 100 different outlets and we can listen to the way it went the first time that, you know, O'Malley did not look like himself. And I'm the first one to admit it. I was all over Merab in that fight. I didn't see really a way that he loses unless he gets clipped. But at the end of the day, when I did watch the fight, and I watched it numerous times again, obviously, to kind of break it down more, he didn't really look like Sean O'Malley. Like he looked, not that he looked disinterested, but he looked like he couldn't set his feet. He couldn't really dial in. And that could be an attribute, that can be a testament to Merab not allowing him to catch rhythm or catch tempo or catch fire. Do I expect him to be a better, better product this time out? I do. I expect him to be a better product this time out. But why people are looking at the matchup so much, I kind of go a little bit sideways. I go a different path with some people. And my whole thing is this, and I'm going to bring it into a couple different categories. Would Pink Floyd be Pink Floyd if they didn't do acid, mushrooms, and drugs? If you took them off everything and you made them write their music, would they be that person? Would Lawrence Taylor be Lawrence Taylor if he didn't live that nutty lifestyle when he was on the Giants? You know, you can go through athletes and musicians and stuff, and what made them special was just there was something within their DNA that's where they were at their best. Now, I'm not saying what Sean O'Malley's doing is bad. You know what I mean? I think it's fantastic that he's trying to clean up, not smoking weed. He's, staying off social media. He's doing certain things to kind of be more serious. But there is a world where the perfect storm made him the fighter that he is. And that's a big question mark for me. That's a huge question mark for me, because what happens, look at like a Michel Pieta, when you take him in this world of chaos and he's this really good fighter, and then all of a sudden he gets a coach who kind of tapers him down, and he has this thinker he had his last fight looked like he didn't even show up. They made him too disciplined. So there is a point in time where you got to look at that and say, yeah, that's all well and great in the long run for him. He's cleaning up. He's not smoking a lot of weed. He's not doing all these crazy things on YouTube and on Instagram and stuff like that. But if you take that element away from him, does that also take away from his fighting style? And that's a really realistic thing. And that's a big question mark for me with this in this fight. And so if you put a question mark and you put these couple question marks, his injuries, how serious he's taking it, can he really make the adjustments? You put a Riddler outfit on him. He almost looks like the Riddler at this point with all these question marks. But when you go to the other side, you look at Merab, you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting a guy with an unlimited gas tank. You're getting a guy that's going to wrestle, that's going to pressure, that even if he does not get the takedowns, he's going to spam them. And really his only path to lose here is if he gets clipped. Now, can O'Malley clip him with a shot? 1,000%. Have we seen Merab dropped? 1,000%. But I like the paths. I like to put my money on a guy where I know this is what I'm getting from him. I know I'm getting this product from him. I know I'm getting an endless gas tank. I know I'm getting spam wrestling. I know I'm getting toughness. I know I'm getting all these things from him. But now you've got a lifestyle change. You got a layoff. You got all these things with O'Malley, this whole different spectrum of a fighter. I really don't know what I'm going to get from him. So although I do expect a better product, got to go with Merab in this spot.
I love it, man. I love the analogies too, the Pink Floyd analogies, the artistry, what makes them them. And there's a lot to that. And to add to that, maybe the physical part, but parlay into the same point, is that, he and Tim Welsh have broken off a lot, right, Mike? And they got their own gym and they're doing these fight setups and, reenacting the fight night, so to speak. And it looks like they're really having everything thought out. And I know that, I hear that he still will, train either at the MMA lab, although a lot less. And I assume he's bringing and crossing over training with MMA lab guys, both from what I see on socials. And although, again, I can't pretend I don't train at that gym, folks. But I did interview just a whole bunch of like the bantamweight prospects coming out of that gym. And I know we talk about bantamweight being thick. We got, Maniac McGee, aka Drexel from True Romance in the UFC out there, Bautista, who we'll talk about. I'm not even talking about those. Like, there's even a whole nother line of bantamweights coming up. And we see this all the time as you get more and more in saturation. We see the stars kind of get their own corner of the room. Maybe they get their own gym that O'Malley's kind of doing. And, how much of that plays into that, messing with the recipe, right? Messing with the original recipe, right? You know, the Sunday gravies now, it's not tasting the same anymore, for better or worse. So that's very interesting there. And, you know, you were making me, so I have Merab written down with a question mark because I actually have a few plays, folks, and I'm going to give them to you here that are kind of written with a question mark with odds that I have even queued up on some of these plays here. I'm not sure if I want to hit them. And Merab's one of those guys where I'm like, he should be in every parlay, but I don't have him in my parlays yet because I'm just like, something about this matchup has me scared too, because and now this is more on the woo-woo side of things, but there is a lot of truth to this saying where seldom do rematches go the same way in MMA. Now, this one is just asking to go the same way, especially, you know, with the juju that the UFC matchmakers are cooking with what they've been giving us and the path they've been choosing to go. You know, you can't really feel too bad for them if we get another Merab 50-45 here, so to speak. But I will say that last fight also not as close, not as a contrarian argument, so to speak, but it reminded me of Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad as far as being a lot closer than people remember. Now, I still scored it live, and since then for Bilal, I still scored it live, and since then for Merab, obviously, even more so. That being said, it was closer than people care to admit. It was a really weird first round that you could argue was the swing round, even though I think they got it right. O'Malley gets round 3, and he gets round 5 by something that I called in the breakdown when I went to reread my breakdown pre-fight, which was the body work. That was going to be whether it was the front teeps, which we saw, or the crosses, which we saw. The body work was going to be the biggest key, I thought, for O'Malley, and it was. It actually drew more of a reaction than I even thought, being someone who wrote those words. And say what you will about O'Malley or Tim Welsh or whatever speculation you might have about their camp. How can they miss that? How can you go back and watch the tape and miss something like that? So, you know, part of me has been kind of, you know, scared, but the clear pick is Merab. And you know what? If you pull the trigger, even if you're feeling as, I don't even want to say reluctant, because I don't even think that's a fair way to characterize it, but let's say you're feeling reluctant about picking Merab, even if you did play him feeling reluctant about picking him, so to speak, to Mike's point, this is a volatile game. You can never guarantee winners, but the only thing you can ask for is a fighter who's going to fight hard for your money, and not just fight hard for your money, but stick to that kind of same game plan. And those are two different things, by the way. Merab checks both those boxes. You can't ask for much more as far as the bet goes, right, Mike?
I do want to throw a little wrench into this mix. I want to ease some of the pain of some of the O'Malley people, because obviously you're on Merab, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're both on Merab. So for people who are backing O'Malley, I'm going to give you a little caveat that'll maybe make you feel a little better. There's something to be said about hunger. Okay, there's something to be said about hunger. You know, when you're not on the top of the mountain, you're extremely hungry, you're starving, you're trying to get up to eat the feast. When you do get up there, sometimes you can lose a little bit of your hunger. And Merab is there. Merab is on the top of the mountain right now. Merab is the one who's eating. O'Malley, he tasted it. He's not there right now. So there is something to be said about maybe is he more hungry than Merab in this fight? You know, so there is something to be said about that. Hunger plays a big deal in the psychological game of fighting. Like when you're on the top of the mountain, it's hard to wake up with a hard on sometimes when you know people are gunning on your back, but it's easy to wake up with a hard on when you know you're running uphill for something. So just you guys can take that. It's not changing, but I'm saying there is something to be said about, you know, the hunger level of this fight.
That's right. Now, I'm just making little page notes as we go along here. This one, we're obviously on a consensus pick-wise. Now, as far as the Dogger Pass parlay, now, I got to reframe and shout out my guys, Chronic Combat Conversations. I don't mind stepping over Henry C, Triple C Cejudo, but I can't step over the original Triple C's, my boys there. Also, maybe we'll just keep it simple, stupid. We'll just call it the Dogger Pass parlay, whether we end up on 3 or last week. I know we called the Audible, folks. We ended up on 4. Maybe this week, me and Mike were talking about we're going to still aim for 3, at least for this week, just because there's a lot of hard plus money to be found. Like, we can't even be cheeky and be like, hey, can we at least get like a plus 105 Merab by decision? Like, no, it's like minus 185. And even the over, right? Like, that's the same price as the money line. So, I don't even know, even if we did feel bullish about Merab here, Mike, you know, I don't even know if we put him in for the favorite end of the sandwich. Even that starts to get too high, you know, but we'll get there when we get there. I just want to make these mental notes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the co-main event. We got another title fight. Of course, Julianna Pena, she's the champ again, plus 550 for the sitting champion comeback on the challenger. Kayla Harrison, minus 800. Again, the total market set at 4.5 rounds with the over plus 145, the under minus 175. They are predicting violence for this WMMA fight. What are you predicting, Mike?
This fight makes me very uncomfortable for a couple of reasons. I got personal ties to both of these camps. I got personal ties to Kayla Harrison's side when it comes to Chris Skelly and Tony Kamal, who are judo professors, very, very, very high level elite guys. I also have ties with Wayne Gregory, who is tied to Julianna Pena. Me and Wayne, I have his phone number. So this fight's tough for me to talk about. I'm going to talk about it, but it definitely makes me uncomfortable to talk about it because I know they have to pick a side. So when I look at this fight, and listen, like I said, I'm very close with Chris Skelly, who was a USA judo coach who has a lot of ties with Kayla Harrison. I've seen her evolve into the tremendous athlete that she is. There's no denying whether you like her personality. There's no denying the girl's a phenomenal athlete. Just look at her credentials. That's all you need to know. Olympic gold medalist. That the conversation stops there. Amazing physique. Knows how to play bully ball in there. But she is a little raw when it comes to mixed martial arts. I mean, if you look at the level of opposition that she has fought, she has been smart. She has stayed in the PFL. She's been banking checks. She's been making money. But the PFL and Bellator to me are kind of regional circuit when it comes to, the UFC, when it comes to the big show. If you look at the one girl who really gave her an issue, it was Alyssa Pacheco. Larissa Pacheco is tough. That's what she brings to the table. She's well-rounded, but she's ultimately what really kept her in that fight was she's tough. So when I look at this fight and I say, well, here's Kayla's track record. Yes, she will bully you for a round or two and most likely get you out of there or just win enough rounds and enough minutes on the front end where on the back end, maybe you just run out of time. But there is something to be said about Julianna Pena's toughness. And the one thing about Julianna Pena I will tell you is it's hard to watch her fight sometimes because she's really unathletic, especially on the feet. When you look at her on the feet, she's very unathletic. She lunges forward. She keeps her head on the center line. She's a defensive liability. She's very, very hittable. But I will say this about her. What keeps her in her fights is her just durability and her ability to get better as the fight goes on. This girl's a dog. Like Julianna Pena is a dog. And if you keep any amount of window open for her, if you start gassing out or you run out of tricks or you don't know how to make adjustments, Julianna Pena will take over. At the end of the day, listen, she submitted Amanda Nunes. Say what you want. It wasn't Amanda Nunes that night. The fact of the matter is she beat her. That night, she beat the GOAT. So for people to say that she can't win this fight, that's a ludicrous statement considering she beat the GOAT. So she absolutely can win this fight. Do a lot of things have to fall in her favor? Do the timelines, do situations inside the cage early have to fall in her favor? Absolutely. Does Kayla Harrison have to hurt Julianna Pena and get the wrong read and try to finish her and realize I can't finish this girl and gas herself out? And then Julianna Pena, yes, these are all things that kind of have to fall in place for her. I don't see Julianna Pena playing muscle ball with her and kind of finishing her. If the way I see this fight going, I think Kayla Harrison needs to either going to dominate this fight on the front end and finish it, or just not give Julianna Pena enough time to kind of come back, or she's going to make a mistake where she thinks she can bully this girl like a lot of the other girls, put a complete beating on her, see that she can't get out of there, and then possibly fade down the stretch where Julianna Pena starts to kind of chip away in the 4th and 5th round. So I think Julianna Pena is actually live in this spot long. I mean, it's got to go. This is not an early call. This is not like first round, second round submission. I'm saying long game. I think she's live, but I think the smart and logical pick is I just think that Kayla Harrison's a little bit more dynamic, a little stronger, a little more athletic. I think she just marks a couple more boxes slightly, but it doesn't mean she can't make a mistake. But the logical pick is Kayla Harrison's going to get this done.
I like it. I'm leaning toward you ultimately with as far as my pick is going to be Harrison, and I'll admit I'm still teetering a bit whether it's going to be decision or an early sub, because I feel like the same. It's got to be an early blowout or do enough to where she can survive and whether it's mentally or stamina wise, either of those start kind of failing her in the latter rounds, she can at least maybe survive those and still walk away with a scorecard type of deal. All of those, Larissa Pacheco, both those fights, win or lose, right? They were both very competitive, and she both had her pacings challenge in each of those fights. It's tough. So I still have to tape out as far as make clips for the Southpaw report, but Pena's going to be on that. She stands 2-1 against UFC level Southpaws, folks. That loss, of course, is a submission loss to Valentina Shevchenko by armbar, and the wins were decision wins over Kat Zingano at UFC 200 there, and then a couple fights later, she beat the former inaugural flyweight champ Nico Montano by decision. And Nico Montano actually, even herself, granted that is her game, but she was able to get some takedowns on Pena in what was an ugly fight, which is kind of to be expected because both of them tend to produce those fights. But Pena thrives in those. And again, we can't pretend that, Pena didn't beat Nunes, right? We can't pretend that the betting line was what it was the second time around, albeit, Pena was still an underdog, but it wasn't by much. And, you can't deny that when you have these Ronda Rousey odds, like I call it, they do with women MMA. I mean, the bookmakers are just asking you, they're asking to be taken by these. Not that they're being taken, but you know what I mean? Like they're clear dog or pass spots, right, folks? They're clear dog or pass spots, but we have such a chalk heavy event that it's going to influence us to do really dumb things. And maybe I'm just saying that because I always feel trepidatious about playing chalk because I'm just like maybe I'm hosting the right podcast. I'm a very dog hungry guy, Mike. But yeah, like it's an absolute no matter who it is to put, even if it's a parlay, put Harrison in the parlay. But here I am going like, hey, can I put Harrison in a parlay to bring them down? And all I'll say is this, is I'm not going to tell you guys where to put your money or this or that. I'm not going to tell you guys just because it's a dog or pass that you need to sprinkle on the dog, even albeit a small amount. I'm not going to tell you where to put your money, but I will say if you are tempted to play Pena, or you are scared to lose your investment on Harrison, well, I really suggest you look at the live betting market. And even if you're just throwing, even if you're pissing into the win, you could probably get a really good number if KAYLA gets her dominance early and can't finish in that first round, and she's still got 4 rounds to go. You'd be a lot worse off than throwing whatever stupid plus number is going to be. They're going to be hanging Julianna Pena at the end of round 1 should it play out that way. I don't know. Are you much of a live better, Mike, or do you sign off on that suggestion, loose suggestion, as it were?
Yeah. I think it's a live betting opportunity. I kind of hold my flag a lot of the times. Like I'm not a big hedge out guy. I don't believe in hedging out. Like if it's just say I picked, the next fight, say I pick Gastelum and PYFER starts working him. I'm not the type of guy to really. I keep my flag. I believe that people that are constantly hedging out and everything, like it's okay. Then you obviously made another bad read, But the fights that I don't have any action on, like a fight like this, Julianna Pena and Harrison, yes, it's a live betting opportunity. What I'm going to wait for is I'm going to wait and see. Does she take her down? Does she like crucifix her, get in her a position where I got this is over with? And then Julianna Pena walks back to the corner and says, look at me, you didn't finish me. Then I'm like, this is going to be interesting now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's what I look for. But as far as once I make a bet, very rarely do I live bet and hedge out because it doesn't make you. A lot of people hedge out to try to save face. You made the wrong read, period, end. You made the wrong read. Hedging out does not save
point. Great point. It's funny. I've been very anti-hedge for most of my betting career, and then I have had and I make no hiding of it. Real tough last 2 years, and almost got in my head to where I put some hedges when they I could argue they make sense, but even then, I'm more at heart what you said, and feel very much that way. But I will say this though. Julianna Pena is like what plus 575 or something on the market right now.
Yes.
If you get Harrison, almost putting her out. The live betting market's been much smarter, so I really try to be less optimistic about it. But if they're placing like a plus 800 or 900 price tag at that point, then it's like, well, you really don't even have to put a lot to And this is also a co-main event, so let's say you're up in the night. You know what I'm saying? And it won't you won't feel the quarter unit either way. But if that quarter unit does hit, it'll cover whatever investment you had and exposure you had to Harrison. Then at that point, it's like whatever, no big deal. But I totally feel you. And that was really well said there. All right, so we both like Harrison for a pick, but between the personal ties or not, let's just look at the betting lines. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to feel too bullish in either direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to attack, if you're going to even think about attacking Julianna Pena, you're going to attack her not on the money line, not plus 500, 550. You're going to make it juicy, and you're going to go like you're going to do a same game parlay, Julianna Pena, and maybe over 2.5, because that's when she's going to win the fight. Then you're really bolstering your odds at that point. But this is a live betting opportunity. There's, I'm not tying Kayla Harrison into anything just because of everything that we discussed. And I got to see what Julianna Pena shows up for this fight.
So I'll tell you the one Kayla Harrison play I'm looking at, and you look at the props, and this is one where it's like I love it when the decision, the submission, and the knockout are all in the same neighborhood. You're like, oh, the odds makers don't even know what's going to happen on this one, right? But I do like Harrison by submission. It actually is like kind of half the price of a knockout, so it's not as a 1-for-1 comparison that I just threw out there. But you know what I'm saying, and that's not very sexy of a number, so we'll see, because there's a lot of submissions to where I'm probably going to have a 5-leg round robin. And if you have a 5-leg round robin, depending on your amounts, but the amounts that I put on, a 5-leg round robin is 2 teamers times 10. So you get 10 combos of 2 teamers. And if any of those hit, pays out, you ideally want to set it up to where you just need the minimum to profit, otherwise, why the hell are you doing it? Then it's an extra donation than it already is. A little quick explainer there. But yeah, there's a lot of submissions coming your way, guys, that I don't have the round robin locked in, but like I told you guys, I'm listening to you in the comments. I will tell you where I'm targeted, and there's a lot that are sexy. This is one that's sexy to me because I feel like it's a real possibility. Unfortunately, the number reflects so. And if you're gonna have if you're gonna have anything under 2-1, plus 2-1, I should say, in a 5-leg round robin, well, then your next lowest leg, it's got to be at least like plus 330 or higher for you to cover. Now, if you do a 4-legger, you can have the little, the chintzier numbers there and kind of get away from it. But that's the last thing I wanted to give you for that before we circle back for our recap. All right. Next fight, we got Kelvin Gastelum plus 290. Your underdog, the favorite, Joe PYFER, recovered from Mexico, minus 380. The total market, 2.5 rounds, with the over minus 145 over 2.5 rounds. That is minus 1.5. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 115. I think we got some head-to-head on this one. Do I smell head-to-head? Or what side do you fall on this fight, Mike?
There's a part of me that wishes this was a 5-round fight. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd be all over Gastelum in a 5-round fight. It is obviously 3 rounds. Obviously, we know what happened. I've never been a fan of Joe PYFER. I've never been a fan of him. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's I don't like his personality. Maybe because I'm from Jersey, he's from Philly. We don't like each other. But I don't know what it is with him. It's even the stories that he tells. Every time he fights, it's look at me. I came from nothing. I came from nothing. Everybody came from nothing. So it's like I don't know what it is about him. And I also think he's a little overrated. I got to be honest with you. I think he's good. I think he's a sizable guy, 6'2", big power. But when you watch him get exposed, like he got exposed by Hermansson, I picked Hermansson in that fight, to be honest with you. I was like, somebody's going to expose this guy. It's going to happen soon. And it's nothing against PYFER. It's not a personal thing. I just don't think he's that good. Yeah, I don't. And the problem is, I think Kelvin Gastelum is that much better than him. The problem with Kelvin Gastelum is you never know what Kelvin Gastelum is going to show up. You never know what Kelvin Gastelum is going to be on the mark when it comes to eating, when it comes to dieting, when it comes to making weight, when it comes to showing up every day and putting the work in. You just don't know. Kelvin Gastelum, when he's dialed in, is a championship pedigree fighter. I mean, he proved that against Izzy. I mean, look at that fight. That was a war. It's in the Hall of Fame already. But when you look at Kelvin Gastelum in his last camp, and you really read him, if you really watch his history, you really read, he was ready for that fight. And that's why I really felt bad for him. You could see he was really, really ready to fight Joe PYFER. And then it obviously fell through. And here we are. Now he's in New Jersey, kind of a hometown fight for PYFER because it's kind of local. And you got to do the weight cut again. And it's just, I don't know. There's something around this fight that feels like the edge is leaning a little bit more towards PYFER. I think a dialed-in Gastelum wins this fight. And if he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, kind of pissed off that fight fell through, that he put so much time into that camp and effort into that camp, and just remasks that, I can see the volume of. Listen, Gastelum's used to fighting bigger guys his whole career. It's really just him. I mean, this ain't new to him to fight a guy 6'2". This is not new to him. He's always been that, high volume, good striking, good footwork, granite chin, good cardio. He's always in your face. Like, he knows how to get into the pocket to take that range away from you. And even though he's punching up, he finds his ways inside. I think if you get a dialed in Gastelum for this fight, he's gonna surprise PYFER. I'm actually gonna go with Gastelum here.
Interesting, man. I don't want to say interesting because I totally get it. I feel like I almost had that same breakdown so many times over the years with Gastelum because I've been a Gastelum truther. I've been a Gastelum defender, right? But let's go
It's
back and
hard to
look at his.
defend them. It's hard to defend them now.
It is because I'm looking back at the schedule now, and you go. So basically, I felt strong about this fight. I'll just spoil because I mean we're already, I'm sure we've all broken this fight down already. But for me, I actually felt good about this leg, and I was really bummed that we lost it because I felt like this was really going to be a PYFER by submission. We're going to see that Chris Weidman arm triangle loss following the, say what you will about PYFER. I definitely get what you're saying there. Although, maybe the sympathetic, psychological part of me is like, he just needs it's just like he's like Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting. He just needs like it's not your fault. Like he just needs to cry it out. I think it'll be all right, but say what you will about him, his camp though, with Sean Brady, and Pat Sabatini, guys I like. You look at the trends of that camp, and whatnot, and it's very grappling heavy.
But is it fair to say he doesn't fit the mold of that camp? He reminds me of a Julio Arce for TSK. Like you got all these guys, you got all the guys over at TSK who are great linemen, good. All those guys were good strikers, and then all of a sudden you throw Julio Arce into the mix, who actually is not that prototypical style. I feel like Joe PYFER is not that camp. He's not the Brady style. He's not the Sabatini style. He's kind of like the odd man out in that camp.
We'll see. It might be, but I will say that I think he's got underrated grappling skills and wrestling. And I've said that before. I called that before his Al Hassan fight, which I know that not the craziest prediction, in hindsight or even pre. But I'm just saying, like it's something that because I haven't been too high on PYFER, but it's one of those things that if he does do this, he can do it. But the problem is that fighters don't do the things they're supposed to do, a la Kelvin Gastelum, right? I mean. So whereas Brady, say what you will about him, he's grappled in most of the fights he should grapple in, and that trend's only kind of quietly increased. He's even done, he's even been more active with doing grappling matches outside and between his fights, right? And like avidly going for those. And say what you will, maybe he's going for other UFC fighters, like guys he already beat, like GM3, and not as much of like the grappling names, grapplers who will twist in tournament stuff, which makes sense. You don't want to get your knee twisted and now you're out of an actual paycheck. But you look at Gastelum, and again, since that Weidman loss with the arm triangle, right back in 2017, he's on that Joaquin Buckley kick where he's just clearing out retirement homes, right? Like he had Vitor before he fought Chris, and then the Chris one backfired. He fought Michael Bisping on a fight Bisping shouldn't have took, right? In Shanghai at last minute, knocks him out. Goes to split with Ronaldo Souza, which was a closer fight than people realize. It was a classic fight I point to where how optics can lose you the fight, where you can actually win the fight by your actions, but if you look gas, you just give the fight away, right? That was one of those fights. Loses to Adesanya, of course. That was like one of the last like really good Gastelum performances we get, right? And that was back in April of 2019, because then he goes and loses a split to Darren Till. That was a real like lackluster fight. Loses a quick heel hook to Jack Hermanson. Now, you could argue it's vintage Calvin Gastelum here in the sense of what wins him a decision all the way back in February 13, his last probably legitimate win. We'll get to that in a second, almost half decade ago against Ian Heinisch, who was on his way out. Loses to Robert Whittaker, predictable. Even the first time around, I had it going the same way. Loses to Jared Cannonier. Wins against Chris Curtis, but he should have lost that fight. I'm sorry. Again, judges do not grade body work and counters correctly. Hence, Chris Curtis being one of the many fighters. All of Raquel Pennington, by the way, who we didn't even mention, probably just should still be champion over Julianna Pena. No offense to your girl there. But again, fighters with that style of body work and countering, everyone's like, oh, boxing judges. And I'm like, man, outside of the corrupt ones, I wish we had boxing judges. Maybe we get counters and body work adjudicated correctly for once. So get the fuck out of there with that win. Sorry, pardon my French. Sean Brady loses to Kimura. Daniel Rodriguez, again, a super lackluster win with the weight taint, the changes last minute that clearly benefited him. And if you want to be like a criterion there, that fight was also even closer than it was given credence for too. So it's like I love Gastelum. I'm the biggest Gastelum hater right there. I've been a big Gastelum truther. Gastelum plus money. Mike, for years back, all the way back, cashing Rick Story versus Thiago Alves. All the kids out, half the audience went, who? Because my favorite underdog archetype. durable southpaws who can wrestle. Gastelum, baby. I can't do it with him anymore, man. Give me PYFER.
Yeah, listen. I don't blame you. I don't blame.
I'm
not even a Gastelum fan. It's not like I'm a guy like I'm not a Gastelum.
Right.
I feel like I have a pretty good beat on talent, and the kid has all the talent in the world. He always did. He has a tremendous talent, but every day he comes into the ring to cage to fight, you got to wonder: is he bringing his whole bag with him, or is he bringing a fucking a fanny pack with him? You know what I mean? It's like, what is he going to do? Like, who's going to show up? And it all boils down to his discipline. It all boils down to his camp. It all boils down to where his mindset is. Because, sometimes when you see when his life isn't going well, his entire camp goes into shambles. It's happened to him numerous times. So I just feel like when I saw his Mexico City camp, and I really pigeonholed into, and a couple people that I did talk to that were kind of insiders, he was really ready for that fight. Did something happen maybe before, in between then, since then? Did he get depressed maybe that the fight never happened and he started eating again? And I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm going off of what I've seen, and the skill set. And I think he could steal this one if he shows up. I'll end it there.
It's another.
You want to have a bet on this one? No, actually, I want to bet on the next one because I think we're going to be contrarian on the next one.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. And folks, if again, we're not gimmick stealing, so if you want to think of something that we can do for fun and contribute, let us know, because I definitely wouldn't mind doing some head-to-head bets for fun for the show's sake for this one. And yeah, I relate to Gastelum being a 5'9" guy who loves the food, man, who has the constant war with it. Boy, do I understand that.
Yeah. There's a reason why you demand the best information, just like there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people, just like you and I. They have over 100 offices and more than 1,000 lawyers nationwide. When you hire the wrong law firm, you may be beat before you start. All law firms are not the same. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/doggerpass or dial #law, #529 from your cell phone. That's FOR thepeople.com/doggerpass or #law, #529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
All right, moving on. We got Mario Bautista plus 155, Patchy Mix minus 185 for his UFC debut. The total market 2.5 with the over 2.5 rounds minus 170, under 2.5 rounds plus 132. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up on the opposite side, but the betting logic may not differ too differently because boy, I want to say 185 is a high asking price, but Mike, he opened it 2-1, money trickling in on Bautista, you could say, although most of the bets that I've seen on my timeline are all on Mix. How are you seeing this one, man?
Listen, man, one thing if you ask my subs, we've been like the whisperer of situations like this, like for the past couple of years. Like we've been able to sniff out these. We did it with the Queen of Violence. We did it with numerous people. We did it with Manel Cap, his first fight in. Like you get these guys like Manel Cap, like De Silva, who actually changed their name, Queen of Violence. They come in with such hype behind them, and you look at their Bellator and LFA, and you look at all these things that they were in, and you're like, wow, they're running. But people don't understand that's not the UFC. Bellator is not the UFC. You're not fighting the same level of opposition. You're not dealing with the media. You're not dealing with the fan base, the exposure. There's so much more involved outside of the cage, and outside the pressures are completely different. It's a pressure cooker once you get there. And when you get there with hype like Patchy Mix has, like Manel Cape had, like these guys have coming up, it's even more of a pressure cooker. I watched a lot of film on Patchy Mix. I think Patchy Mix is a very, very talented fighter. So please, guys, I don't want to hear in the fucking comments, well, you crazy, you don't think Patchy Mix is good. I think Patchy Mix is very good, but Patchy Mix has a lot of holes that can be exposed. One of the biggest holes I see with him is his striking. His striking is very flat-footed. He's extremely flat-footed. He's extremely picky-choosy with his strikes. He's not overall snappy with his approach. I think that people in Bellator and stuff kind of not got intimidated by the name, but kind of gave him a little bit too respect in certain areas of his game that he really doesn't deserve that much respect in. And like I said, I think he's a fantastic fighter, but he does have exposable holes. When I look at the side of Bautista and I look at how he moves, how he works, how he's constantly on his toes, he's in and out, he's moving north and south, he's moving laterally. The footwork is there where, you know, he's when you're on the balls of your feet and you're hopping and you're going laterally and you're jumping off the center line and stuff, you're able to set these traps, you're able to set these landmines, you're able to set these certain things to see what the fighter's biting on and what they're not biting on. Patchy Mix is very move forward when he's striking. He throws some nice combinations. He throws everything down the center line. Everything's crisp. Everything's tight. But all around, he's not a very good footwork, head movement, kind of make things happen fighter. He's kind of, I got to march you down. I got to walk you down, and I got to keep you at the end of my punches. Bautista's not going to allow him to do that. Batista's the guy that's going to want to pressure him. Batista's the guy with the endless gas tank. He can go, that guy can go 25 minutes just the way he started round one, the first, second, round one. He's got tremendous cardio. If you watch, and the thing about him is this, he's got all these attributes, but what he does that's very impressive to me, and the crowd booed, when he fought Jose Aldo, you know, he's very aware in there. He understands when he's losing ground. And he understood going in there against a legend like Jose Aldo, that even though he's older, he's fast. He's snappy. He's sharp. He's got very crisp boxing. He goes to the body. He's still extremely quick, you know, on his feet. So how do I beat him? He went completely out of his wheelhouse and he started grinding him up against the cage. He's like, I'm going to slow him down now. The crowd booed. But the great thing about Bautista is he doesn't care about that. He wants the W. He's not worrying about the crowd. He's not worrying. The most important thing to him in any fighter should be the actual win. So he grinded him up against the cage. Anytime he got loose, anytime Aldo seemed like he was catching rhythm, catching fire, what did he do? He kind of backed him up and pushed him into the cage and started giving him that grinding affair where he couldn't really get loose. I think Patchy Mix is going to have a lot of trouble walking Bautista down. And when you only have a 15-minute window to do that with a guy who is a very good wrestler as well, he's very good once it hits the ground. He has takedowns of his own. He can counter Patchy Mix when it comes to the wrestling. And you're looking at a fight possibly that's going to remain on the feet for majority of the time. Give me the guy who knows actually how to box. Give me the guy who actually knows how to move laterally, get in and out, create his own punches, the guy who's kind of running downhill a little bit more, because that's what's going to win you minutes. It's not going to be the guy walking north and south, marching you down, landing one or two shots. It's going to be the guy that's going to be backing you up against the cage. So I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I think people just get caught in this crazy wheelhouse with hype. I mean, I see so many people so confident that Patchy Mix is going to win the fight. And it's like, what are you watching? Like, there's a reason why Bautista, you know, he's very underrated to us, to people in the community. But when you look at the fighters, nobody wants to fight this guy. There's a reason why nobody wants to fight Bautista. Nobody wants to fight this guy. Patchy Mix really doesn't have a choice, but all the pressure is on Patchy Mix here. There's not a lot of pressure on Bautista because Mix is coming in. I mean, there's pressure because he doesn't want to lose. He's got a nice winning streak going. But if you look at Patchy Mix and you look at the pressure of him coming into the UFC, debut fight, people are expecting there's a lot involved in that. So give me Bautista, bro. I think that kid's got ice in his veins. I think he's going to win a 29-28 decision.
So a lot of our analysis intersects here, Mike. A lot of our analysis intersects. I like the points about the footwork because you know who you kind of reminded me of, Patchy Mix. I went back and watched all their careers from top to bottom. I treated this fight. I almost went into like writing an in-depth breakdown with my notes and stuff like I normally do because that's how I treated this fight as far as the tape study. And he reminds me, and I think he could make it work if he could do it, but you know that was one of a kind. That was a different era. But he reminds me of a Nick Diaz, not Nate, but Nick Diaz. Nick you know, not that Nate was, you know, any less flat-footed of the sort, but Nick did quietly have better footwork though. What Nick didn't really get credit for was he could, when he did get into that kill zone, he could, you know, he did have some corralling footwork and shot selections that worked in conjunction with another. Obviously Mix is, you know, still even now still young in his career, but he has been making progressions, and I think we have to remember that only in the last handful of camps did he make the switch over to, and there's bias here, right? Is where my bias comes in, my backyard of extreme couture, and he's really made a lot of improvements there, working with Coach Nate Pettit, who works with a lot of the southpaw strikers there. And, you know, he also, you know, cross trains with a ton of people here in Las Vegas. We haven't seen him for a year. So I say that to say, I want to leave some room to be surprised. And when you look back at the tape, some people go, you know, why do you go back that far, Dan? And you don't need to. I probably definitely could have spent my time doing much better things. Believe me, folks. I'm not I don't say it as a brag, and I know that. But in my mind, it does kind of help you when you want to get a gauge of, like, especially a fighter like they're coming in with a year layoff, right? When you're trying to gauge what their potential growth could be, right? Now, if you watch their career over a decent span, you might actually get a decent gauge of that. Like, oh, okay, this person actually improves, or this person doesn't improve much, you know? And that doesn't mean they're going to win or lose the fight. It's not a definitive thing, but it can help. And we have been seeing improvements of mix, so I do want to hold my breath for that. That being said, most of the improvements in offense, it's forward offense, like you said, straight linear strikes, which are all good. I like the knees. I like the southpaw arsenal, and he's always had a bit of that annoying checking lead hand that us southpaws can definitely have. But I don't know how you characterize it. Did you use the word pop, Mike? But he lacks that pop for me, right?
You're talking about Patchy. You're talking about Patchy.
Yes.
Yeah, bro, and that's optics. That's all optics.
Judges particularly in the counters, right? Like, part of the reason why I picked Aldo, not because I'm an Aldo fanboy, right? But it's because, you know, the counter shots, and you've seen that, you know, even in fights that he's winning, unanimous decisions, Mario Bautista can get bloodied up. He can get touched up there. And it's counters that are doing, when you actually go back and watch, see what's doing the damage. It's counters that make them uncomfortable. And I think this fight's going to come down to the striking, because I think the grappling is going to be tough. You know, I will say this was one thing that another reason why I'm glad I did the same for Bautista, because the one thing where my analysis kind of differs is that one thing I did notice about Bautista is that all those things you said are correct about the striking. I think that's going to be big, even if Mix does make some improvements. The fact that he's moving laterally, like you explained, Mike, that's going to encourage Mix even more to kind of be in place, and makes you rely even more on counters, which is, again, why if I'm looking for a guy to beat Bautista, one of the first things I'm looking, how's his takedown defense? How's his counter game? Hence why I picked Jose Aldo, even an old Aldo. And, you know, I'm not going to relitigate that scorecard, but it was controversial. But hey, you know what? Say what you will about those scorecards as gamblers. Maybe this is what you were alluding to, Mike. You guys should be thriving on spots like this, right? Where not just one guy is overhyped, but then you got another guy that, like, I used to make a ton of money on Colby Covington back in the day, because everybody hates Colby Covington, right? But dude, at least, you know, before, you know, the latter part of his career where he fell off, like, the dude would wrestle his butt off for you. You know what I'm saying? You get him at plus money because the market would hate him. So I was like, okay, fine. You want opportunities like this. So don't get me wrong, from a betting perspective, like, I think it's dog or pass. I'm actually going to suggest the over. I actually like the over at -170. It's cheaper than a mixed money line if you're a mixed fan. And I think it's a competitive fight either way. Maybe if you don't like the over for a straight bet, I might be playing it straight, but maybe it's something that we can peg up on our board. If not Bautista as a dog, because again, I part of the reason too, I am siding toward mix is because I think it is going to be striking, and I don't think Bautista strikes as well with southpaws. Bautista is 1-1 against UFC level southpaws. Of course, got knocked out by Trevin Jones, and the only other southpaw he faced was Guido Canetti, who that fight ended, you know, immediately by pretty much a Bautista submission. You know, of course, Guido Canetti was like, what, 44 at that time, a striker, but even the 44-year-old striker Guido Canetti with the negative UFC record was able to take him down. And Bautista, he's gotten so much better at it. You know, John Crouch is one of the camps where they use the wrist control to where they will give back exposure, but they do it in conjunction with a cross wrist, which is not a guarantee. Nothing is in this game, but it does help keeping from somebody extend to your back like a mix. But mix is so good. He's got that size parity, which is something else that Bautista has shown kind of to be uncomfortable with. We saw in the fight with Damone Blackshear, although it was a unanimous decision win that people thought could have or even should have gone Blackshear's way. I wasn't that sympathetic. I thought they scored it right for Bautista. However, I will say you saw whilst Blackshear was fresh, that Bautista was not comfortable with another guy with length parity who could also grapple and strike. And even Blackshear's striking wasn't even as developed as it was now, or as developed as arguably as Mix, his pertinent opponents, will be. So it's going to be a tight fight. I feel like you're not wrong. I feel like it's dog or pass. Don't get me wrong, folks. And bias is probably playing in, even though I'm not close or know Patchy Mix that well. But I will say this: if you are a Mix fan, not just to consider the over, not just to maybe, you know, caution. I'm not going to tell you guys where to put your money, where not. But wait for weigh-ins. Here's my weigh-in tidbit before we move on. Okay, this is so fighters. Patchy Mix is not long for this division, man. All the way back, when was it? Was it 2022? I lose track. I covered the Bellator Hawaii events, folks, like before the pandemic, and then I covered some since, and they all kind of blend together. I missed like maybe one of the Hawaii shows. I've been covered all of them, and Patchy Mix, when he fought Rafian Stotts, and that was another tough fight because there was connections on both sides to the gym there, right? When he fought Rafian Stotts for that $1 million title, he beat him by the knee. And I don't think this is too out of school to say, man. Like, and that's why it's interesting, because he has to hit the media stuff where like Bellator is so much more laid back, whether you're from a fighter or a press perspective. I really miss their they had kind of a cool family feel when you went to cover their shows. And Mix, you know, they're not like going to fine you like the UFC does, or like fuck with you if you miss contractual obligations. And two guys amongst those Hawaii shows were consistently missing the contractual obligation, media, and being sick. And that was AJ McKee when he was making 145. Again, not long for the division, now at 155, right? And Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix was, in fact, just never to be seen all week. Like, it was bad. Like, we weren't sure he was going to make it to the fight. And these were full notice camps for $1 million, folks. I know Patchy's been champing at the bit. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for. But this is also just on a few weeks' notice, folks. And seeing Mix in the gym, and you know, you get to Mike. I'm sure you're really good at eyeballing people. Like, oh, I bet you that guy, he's about this height and he weighs about a buck so and so, right? Doing this game, and especially all the stuff you do, like your experiences, you know what I'm talking about. I don't think Mix was heavy or anything. I think he's, you know, I'm sure he'll make the weight, folks, but I'm also sure as shit it's a hellacious cut he's going through right now. So I just want to end by saying that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. So we'll, you know, as for not many dogs to put on, so I want to just put Mario Bautista as an underdog up there, and I also want to put that over up there, just to kind of peg. Moving on, we'll be a little quicker with a lot of these. Maybe not this one so much. We'll see. Vicente Luque plus 225. Kevin Holland minus 275. Total market 2.5 rounds with the over 2.5 plus 120. Under 2.5 rounds minus 163. They are predicting violence. What are you predicting, Mike?
You know, this is tough for me because Kevin Holland is a guy who, I mean, he's so predictable. I mean, really, let's call it what it is. The guy's got a lot of talent. He's super athletic, super long, good striking. I mean, when he fought, I remember there was a fight. I think it was Brunson. And every time Brunson was on the feet, he stung him with something. One shot, stung him, boom. And you're like, all right, just stay on your feet now. Just stay on your feet now. And Brunson takes him down. Done. That fight, the round's over. Second round comes on, same thing, bang, stings him with something. All right, he's stung. Let's stay on your feet. He takes him down. It's just a clear hole. It's a clear deficiency. It's something that's not going to be fixed. He's going to get a little bit better here and there, defending takedowns. He's good on the ground once he gets there. If you know, he is kind of slick with his grappling, but his takedown defense is terrible. So any normal human being, excuse me, guys, with a brain in their head that's coaching a guy says, look, we're not going to stand and bang with this guy. This guy's too sharp. He's too dynamic. He's too quick. He's too long. We're going to sell out. Get this fucking guy to the ground and see what you could do with him from there. By hook or by crook, this is what we got to do. We got to take this guy to the ground, slow this guy down, take his space away. When you look at Vicente Luque, as all the shit that this guy's been through, at one point in time, he was on a run. This guy was running through people. Great durability, good striking, good power. We all know how good his Brazilian jiu-jitsu is. You know, very well-rounded, well-spoken, you know, soft-spoken, just a good guy, good all-around fighter that didn't get really the exposure he deserves because he's not just a flashy guy. But at one point in time, Vicente Luque was a super, super tough out for anybody. And you look at his approach to fighting, and you're like, all right, is this another guy like a Gilbert Burns who he's got that grappling in his back pocket. He's got that pedigree, but he fell in love with the striking a little bit too much. And that's a very good question to ask. And in this fight, that's a very good question to ask. Like, is he going to do the right thing? Is he going to utilize his black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu and his wrestling to take this fight to the ground and either win or lose with the ace in your pocket? So these are all very legitimate questions. But if you're looking at the clearest path, because even with the striking, Kevin Holland should be able to piece him up. But at the end of the day, there are fights where Vicente Luque's chin looks fucking not even human. So, there's just something to be said. Maybe he gets pieced apart, but he actually goes all three. But the clearest path here for me is for Vicente Luque to ground this fight. Just ground this fight. Show your stand up a little bit. Show it to him, but utilize it as a tool to set up, to get in on this guy's hips and take him down, and utilize your Brazilians. Utilize your top pressure. Lock your hips down. Get heavy on him, because chances are he's going to probably start talking to you. He's going to probably start joking around. He'll try to bust his hips loose and shrimp away once or twice, but then he'll settle back in. And if you take him down once or twice, yeah, he'll pop up a couple times. But after you do it a couple times, you're going to be able to lock him down. That's the path to beat Kevin Holland. To stand and trade with him, to try to, showboat with him and have a dick measuring contest with him, that's just not the way to do it. If Vicente Luque comes in and does that approach, Vicente Luque beats him. Like, that's my prediction. If Vicente Luque comes in, you're going to know within the first minute of this fight, 2 minutes of this fight, what approach he's going to take. If he stands and he's getting pieced up by Holland, and he's still trying to trade with him, and he's still trying to box with him, he's probably going to get boxed up, maybe get knocked out, or just get pieced up for 3 rounds. But if Luque really engages in his grappling, goes back to his old school roots, grabs that ace in his pocket, and takes his fight to the ground, I don't see a way where Holland beats him. You know what I mean? So, I mean, but these are all big question marks. Like, this is what makes the game beautiful. This is what makes fighting so interesting and intriguing to watch. This is why they fight the fight. I'm going with the clearest path. I'm going to go with the 100% clearest path here. And I'm going to say the most glaring path to me is Vicente Luque taking this fight to the ground. So, is he going to do it? Guys, I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you if he's going to do it. But that is the clearest path, and I'm going to go with the clearest path. I'm going to take Luque for the upset.
All right. As Matthew McConaughey would say in Dazed and Confused. Real timely reference there, Dan. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So this is, I mean, I don't know how much I like it, but I will say this. I think we're finding a dog we're on the same side of. Will it make the dog or pass parlay sandwich? We have to stay tuned to find out, folks. We're about to blow through the rest of these prelims, but as far as this fight goes, yeah, I was really worried about it, because I've just, like, the brain bleed was like a big no-no for me. And then seeing the Buckley fight, just like, I'm not one to use the Q word that everyone loves to use. Oh, he quit. He's a quitter, right? But oh my gosh, like, after seeing that Buckley stoppage, that just where he just kind of just pulled guard and just stayed in prone position, you were like, what did I had to rewind it. Like, what happened? Like, I was just like, oh, Luque's done, never again. I don't think I bet against him or anything, but I probably picked Themba Garimbo or something, of all people, over him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't, like, no offense to Themba, but, like, like, I was just such a, non-believer. I know that's a quick fight. You can't judge much of it. Although, Luque still showed to have his submission instincts and triggers. At least those triggers are still active, which is, a kryptonite to Holland of sorts. So, that was a good sign, but man, say what you will about Holland, the fights that he does win, I could do that game again like I did with Kelvin Gastelum. Not as harshly with Kevin Holland, but you will see when you do it with Kevin Holland that most of his wins do come at this division, although he has arguably been overpriced, and I've always been wanting to fade him at welterweight, because he drops, he's we love the smack man, but I mean, he talks crap, can't defend takedowns, all the stuff Mike said, drops down to welterweight, and all of a sudden they're giving him, -4, -500 odds, Now, a lot of those matches made sense, both pre-flop and posts, so again, a lot of those, aging out fighters on losing streaks, etc. But so it's hard to trust Holland on the other side either. And even though that right straight down the pike could be placed on Luque's chin, I know you wouldn't be surprised, Mike. Neither would I. Part of me can't help but see that, post brain bleed, he was trying to grapple more in that RDA fight. Granted, it was the small cage to help encourage that, something we talk about. It's going to be the bigger cage here. But again, 2 of his last fights, he grappled in all 3 of his last fights. It's just, it only worked out for him in 2 of his last 3 fights. Will he do it here? Will he do it enough? Will he do it in time? We don't know that, but I am going to actually, and again, it's semi-reluctantly picking him, admittedly, but I'm actually going to be picking Luque here. And whether or not I play him, I will be throwing, they're posting up to +9 to 1. +900 for a sub here. That's making the submission round robin, folks, regardless if I play Luque or not. And
wait, what's the submission prop?
Between +750 to +900 right now on the market.
I like that, actually.
That's very high. Yeah, you could just play that straight. You could sprinkle small on that straight alone, and that shouldn't affect your winning or losing the night if you know.
Yeah.
If you do your sizing right there, folks. So let's keep LUQUE on the side there for food for thought. Let's push through the rest of these, shall we? The prelims, we got Bruno Silva plus 450, another big dog versus another big favorite, and Joshua Van minus 700. Total market over 2.5 rounds, minus 155, under 2.5, plus 125. Mike, before I kick it to you, I will just say I'm a huge Joshua Van fan, as you know, and as you are starting to know, I'm a big bodywork fan. I mean, nobody pops for body. Like you guys think, Joe Rogan, ejaculates every time someone throws a leg kick on the broadcast. I mean, you see Dan Tom when someone goes to the body. I love Van. That being said, I don't love this price. And I don't love this fight at all. I mean, this feels like a dog or pass for me. But Mike, I'm curious what you got to say.
Art of the body, man. Art of the body. I love the body work. It's how you really mark a guy who really knows how to box. You know, if a guy that is just going head hunting, like, oh, that's great. It looks great. But if a guy knows how to go to the body, he understands like that everything starts from your core. So and Josh Van is good at that. The thing that concerns me about this fight, I could see the way this fight's going to go. But the thing that concerns me about this fight, anytime you pick Josh Van, especially at this price, I would never lay this price on him. But from a DraftKings perspective, from multitude of perspectives, is he's a late starter. If you get the jump on Josh Van and say you win the first round, then you're winning half of the second round, and then Josh Van all of a sudden hits the switch, and all of a sudden we've seen it all the time. It's like, oh, where was this guy for a round and a half? And then he comes back and he starts teeing off to your body, backing you up, and if it goes to the cards and he didn't do it in time, then, he could lose a decision that he really should have never fucking lost. But the fact of the matter is, it's just the way he's wired. It's the way he fights. He's got to download everything. He's got to get all the data, and then he kind of hits the switch. I see this fight going the same way. I think Bruno Silva is going to come out hot. Bruno Silva is going to come out, loading up on all his punches. Everything he does is very violent, big movements, big power. Most of his finishes are first and second round. And I think he's going, and listen, we've seen Josh Van clip before. We've seen him drop before. We've seen him hurt before, but he's very resilient. He's very resilient. And I think what's going to happen is in this fight, this is the only way I could see it, unless he clips him. Bruno Silva can absolutely clip him. But I just think it's going to be much more the same. It's going to be, he's going to look good until Josh Van turns it on. And then Josh Van is going to turn it on, and it's going to be body work, body head work, backing Bruno Silva, backing him up, taking those airways away from him with the body work, just a constant pressure. And I think, Josh Van is going to, kind of rubber band back and win this fight, down the stretch in a marathon. Can he finish the fight? 1000%. Josh Van can finish his fight. If he does, it's probably going to be like in a third round. I think just the body work, the accumulation of strikes, maybe the ref steps in. But, I'll go 29-28 Josh Van in a fight where he probably, once again, loses round number one. Fights a little bit cautious because Bruno Silva's coming with a lot of heat, a lot of, hot and heavy heat. And then, Van figures him out. And once he figures him out, I don't think there's anybody Josh Van can't outbox, once he figures you out. So if this stays on the feet, which I'm thinking, probably going to majority of this fight, I think it's going to be a typical Josh Van fight. He's going to be losing until he's winning.
Man, I think so too. That the round three is probably the only thing worth sprinkling on. But even that, I know it's only listing at Bet Online right now, at least for me, which is they're going to have a lower number, so maybe it'll be posted higher. But it's only posting at plus 550, which is super low for round threes. I like round threes between the plus 900 to plus 1200, which was more regular at a time. They've been a lot cheaper, a lot tighter on those. So it's not like that submission prop where you could just sprinkle it on its own. It'd be okay. I may have to do my classic throw. I might have to break the theme of the submission round robin, maybe make room for a Van round three in there if I can't get a good price on it alone to sprinkle. Otherwise, there's not much that interests me. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, let's push through these prelims here. We got AZAMAT MURZAKANOV. No, that is not David Harbour from Stranger Things. He is minus 600. He faces Brendson Ribeiro, plus 400. 1.5 totals for this one, with the over 1.5 plus 130, under 1.5 chalk to minus 160. They want violence here. Yeah, I'm leaning toward the MURZAKANOV side, not to be a spoiler, but Mike, do you have anything on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm leaning towards MURZAKANOV too, but there's a lot of danger in this fight. I mean, for people who really want to go through the nuts and bolts of it, I'll make it really, really quick. But you're dealing with a guy in Murzakanov who, yeah, he's got big power. He's relentless. He pushes forward, but he is very sloppy in his approach, and especially in his striking. He dips his head. He really loads up on that right hand, and when he throws that right hand, he's looking down to the canvas. He leaves a lot of defensive liabilities open, and you're going against a guy in Ribeiro who is a straight linear striker. This guy throws everything down the center line. He's going to have a 10-inch reach advantage in this fight. And the one thing that he actually is good at is he's good at keeping you at the end of his punches. So, you know, do I lean Murzakanov to win this fight? Yeah, but I do see a world where he just gets a little bit too sloppy and he can't find his way inside with someone like Ribeiro who's keeping him at the end of his punches. The problem with Ribeiro is his chin. If he does find his way inside and lands that big overhand right, or is starting to have success fighting in the mid-range, because when it comes to Ribeiro, you can't fight in the outskirts. You either got to fight inside or mid-range. You can't fight long range because that's where he specializes in. He's got a freaky, you know, reach. So if he finds his way in the mid-range, he should be fine. But is he going to be able to? I don't like his approach the way he gets in. He kind of just starts slinging shots, putting his head down. It's all rhymes and reasons to get clipped and get to put out. Ribeiro's not a weak striker. He can pop, but I think eventually that chin is going to show itself. Eventually that chin shows itself, and eventually Murzakanov, you know, clips it and, you know, and knocks him out. But I will tell you, there is a little caution tape around that, because there are situations where I could see Ribeiro, you know, stealing this one.
Yeah, so I went to fade Murzakanov maybe earlier in his career, and you know, looked to be a genius until he hit that round 3 knee against the Teflon Don Ninchukwi there. But I've since come to respect his game, and he's a southpaw. So Ribeiro, by the way, folks, 2-1 against UFC level southpaws. Lost on the regionals, submitted to, by Marcio Alessandre Lioto. I remember that guy from the Brazilian Tough back in the day. And then, of course, his last 2 UFC wins over Kyle Machado and Nurgazoy, which I was on Nurgazoy in that one. So maybe I'm a little trepidatious because I got burned there, right? And Ribeiro comes from that Evolucao Thai camp, which, you know, is good striking camp. I believe it's got ties to Andre Dida, so that you've got ties there, by I believe by nature, to shoot box, and even like Nova. And, you know, they've trained some good southpaw strikers from Francisco Trinaldo, Grandpa Trinaldo, Masa Randuba, baby, to that other guy. What was it, Rafael Carvalho, the southpaw? He got like the Bellator light heavyweight champion back in the day. So subsequently, you know, they can train their guys pretty well against southpaws, although I will say Joaquin Silva got knocked out by old Ricky Glenn, who was a southpaw. So, you know, it's not all glitz and glamour there. That being said, as much as, you know, nerds like me like to talk about skill and this and that, you know what, athleticism really does count for a lot. And I know he doesn't have like the beach bod, so to speak, Murzakanov does, but this dude's he's a really explosive athlete. So I think a lot of those defenses liabilities that Mike's correct on, I think he gets away with a lot of that because of that athleticism. And
yep,
100%, time, right? You know, we see it all the time. Athleticism compensates for things. It just does. There's no, you know, whether we like it or not. And I think that's going to be a difference here, as well as the fact that he's coming in on short notice. So I like him a lot, even though it's a chalky parlay piece, but a way to get that parlay piece down. And I hate unders. I hate 1.5 totals. So perhaps I'm asking for it, but go look at their records. I'm not going to go through the math for you now, because we're going to push on, folks, but a win or lose 95% and upwards of, and they both have decent sample sizes. It goes under 1.5. This is a short notice fight, which only ups it. You know, you've got the live crowd, which is only going to up it, right? So I actually like that under 1.5 minus 160 there. Maybe you could take that straight up, you know, and maybe turn two-legger. Maybe, you know, pair that up with a money line you like in the card or something.
Yep.
All right, next fight, we'll go through this one pretty fast. Sergey Spivak minus 140, Waldo Cortez-Acosta plus 120, over market at 2.5, over 2.5 rounds is plus 120, under 2.5 rounds minus 153. They're predicting violence here. Is this what they call, shout out to my guy Zane Simon, a 2 true outcome fight, where it's going to go one of 2 ways? We get Spivak by submission or a ground and pound, basically, or Acosta by a knockout. Is this one of those fights, Mike?
Bro, Sergey Spivak looks like a fucking meth head in that picture, dude. Did you see that picture? Holy shit. He looks like he's on fucking mushroom caps. That's crazy. You know, quick, like 30-second story about Moldova. So Moldova, he's from Moldova. Everybody knows that, right? So I ordered something years ago, bro, from Moldova, and I didn't even know it was coming from Moldova, but it came, and my mailman was like, Moldova. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, this thing came from Moldova. He's like, this is the first package of my entire career that I ever delivered from Moldova. So that's like, I mean, like, to think about that, this guy's literally from Moldova. I mean, there's a couple fighters from the UFC and from Moldova, but he gets no shine. And Serghei Spivak, believe it or not, in a very watered down heavyweight division, he's pretty good. I mean, he's not bad. Anytime you have a skill set where you could take the fight to the ground when you're that big, and you have a good submission game, and you're astute and aware on the ground, you're going to fare well in today's watered down heavyweight division. And I'm not making fun of the MMA. I'm talking about boxing too. Boxing heavyweight division has been watered down for decades, you know, so he's good for what he is. And when you look at the perfect thing that Dan just said about sometimes athleticism will take away your holes, that's kind of the way I look at Acosta. This is a guy who has a lot of holes in his game, but he's kind of athletic and nimble for a heavyweight. He moves pretty well for a heavyweight. He gets in and out nicely. He moves a little bit more like a light heavyweight, but he does have a lot of holes. So how do you capitalize that? You got to kind of pin him down. You got to kind of, gather and pillage per se. You don't want to fight this guy in space. And I think Serghei Spivak, despite his deficiencies on the feet, if he can get his hands on Acosta and get this fight to the ground, I don't think Acosta has an answer. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm leaning Spivak on the interpretation that he's going to be able to ground this fight. If he doesn't ground this fight, I think it could be a very boring, 3-round Acosta just chipping away at his legs, chipping away at him, keeping distance. But if he can get this fight to the ground, I like Spivak here. So give me Spivak to get this one done.
All right, I like that. I'm trying to see that they have a Spivak inside the distance line posted, so you don't have to do the old classic Willem Dafoe from Spider-Man, choose Parker, between submission and KO, and you're holding that ruin like me going Del Valle by KO. I still can't get over that 10-unit swing. Let me see if I can get before we move on here, Spivak inside the distance line. I like what you said about Cortes-ACOSTA, because by the way, I hate Waldo Cortes-ACOSTA. He's like my least favorite heavyweight for reasons that are unfair. So I totally admit that. But you are absolutely correct. He does move well. He can get in and out, but the holes are just too undeniable. Where even though Spivak is like super inconsistent, I still can't help but side with him here. Like, I remember I took him against Gane, which just looked so terrible. And I'm not saying that he would have lost that fight anyways. Like, obviously he could have probably would have lost that fight anyways. But it was one of those fights where he's you have the fighter where they're walking out, you just know they're going to lose. Something about it, Mike. You're like, oh, this guy.
Yeah. They got that glaze in their eye.
Yeah, he had that mushroom cap look that you were talking about that we just saw in the picture, and he just like shaved his head right before the fight, literally, and it was like, okay, this guy does not look well. Plus 215 inside the distance. I kind of like that, man. We'll put that aside as perhaps part of our Dogger Pass. The Dogger Pass parlay sandwich we're going to put together for the plus money leg, because I know we're having trouble with plus money. We'll mark one. We'll mark that down. Spivak inside the distance. What say you, Mike?
What's that?
Spivak inside the distance plus 210. Should we mark that down for a potential parlay plus money leg there? That'll jolt the value up if we end up on it.
I could see it maybe flattening them out. You know what I mean? At some point in time,
because it's between that or Luque, or it wouldn't be. We could do Bautista, but I don't know how genuine that would be if I end up picking. If I end up officially picking the other side. But yeah, food for thought there. Let's push on to the next one. We got KHAOS Williams minus 195. Andreas Gustafsson being bumped over from last week plus 165. Total market 1.5 rounds over minus 165, under 1.5 rounds plus 128. What do you got on this one, Mike?
So, this is a harder fight now for Gustafsson. And, a lot of people, there's another guy, KHAOS Williams. They jumped on the KHAOS Williams train, for a while. And I never thought he was that good. It's almost like that Trevor Peek kid, the same thing, Trevor Peek fight week. And everybody just jumps on these trains and they're not looking at, like, are these guys good or are they just flash knocking guys out? And so, like, I was always against Trevor Peek. Like, I never thought he was a good fighter. I never thought he would really last. And KHAOS Williams, kind of the same thing. I think he's good. He's a good commodity for the UFC because they know when you get in there, he's going to fight. He's going to throw hands. He's got good durability. He's got big power. He's got things that fighters don't have that you can't learn. He has things that you either have or you don't. You either have power or you don't. You either have a good chin or you don't. He's got all those things, and that's what makes him fun to watch. But at the end of the day, how do you take those things away? And I think that Gustafsson's got a skill set that can take that away, and that's just corralling him. That's just pinning him up against the cage. That's just, getting inside, staying inside, making this fight a dirty, boring, grindy cage fight. And I think that's what Gustafsson does. I think that if he goes and he fights in space with Cass Williams, I think Cass Williams 1000% catches him and shows him like, welcome to the fucking big show, but I don't think he's going to fight like that. I think he might taste his power a little bit early, and his instincts is going to take over, and he's just going to kind of cage grind this fight. He's just going to win the control battle, win the cage lobbying battle. And Cass Williams will be there. He will eat some big shots. He will land some big shots. He'll try to break free and get his offense going. But at the end of the day, I think Cass Williams is going to be more on the defense, trying to get this guy off him on the cage. So I'm going to say Gustafsson wins the decision here.
All right. I like that. It is the bigger cage, but I have a feeling that Gustafsson, if he doesn't get like iced within the first, few minutes, that I think he can find at that cage, and that's going to be his win conditions right there. He's the more consistent fighter with a more consistent process, even though we haven't seen him as much. So he's less proven product. Obviously, that's the big red flag here, right? I mean, you come in here and again, he can get iced, and none of us should be surprised. For that reason, I don't know if how much I'm going to get there with my money, if at all. Probably not, to be honest with you. But I feel like I need some. Yeah, I need some dogs here, though. So I just wanted to clarify and caveat that, because I think I will pick him as an underdog, though. I think there's a live path there, to your point, Mike. And I have even less underdogs picked to this point of the card than you do, buddy. So I need some. All right. Next.
Start taking them, kids. Start taking them.
Will it be this fight? Will I fade Wang Song? Everybody, Wang Kong tonight, baby. -600. Ariane de Silva, I'm used to saying Lipsky, +400 for her comeback as a dog. Total market, of course, 2.5 rounds for the ladies' fights, but it's pretty tight, 2.5. The over set at -140. The under 2.5 at +110, which I agree with, because this could be a fight we could get a finish in either side. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, Ariane Lipsky, another one. I'm going to call her Lipsky. I can't call her De Silva. I've known Lipsky for so long. So Ariane Lipsky, this is somebody who came into the UFC with a lot of hype behind her. Obviously, she didn't live up to that hype, and then all of a sudden she started stringing some fights together. Then the UFC did her no favors, man. I mean, they literally put her against Natalia Silva and Jasmine Jasudavicius, and she loses those fights. Now they're not doing her any favors again, and they're putting her against Kong. Kong is obviously, she has hype behind her because she beat Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing matches and stuff. Very high pedigree when it comes to the striking, but she as well, she has shown the ability to lose. She's shown a chink in her armor. However, I really do believe that was just her coming in thinking that she was going to be like the next Alex Pereira. Like, she was going to just take over this division, and things will humble you very, very quick in this sport. I think she's got her loss behind her. I think that she is very talented. And I honestly think Ariane Lipsky, she has the potential to win this fight, because listen, female MMA, you got anything can happen, but I think you're going to see Kong start coming into her own a little bit here. I don't agree with the price, absolutely not, but I do agree with the side.
Yeah, I agree too there. And I will say, not that you don't want to do MMA math, but like, you look at Lipsky's last 2 losses, or De Silva's last 2 losses, and Kong might be -700 here, but I wouldn't be comfortable picking her to win outright against those two either. So, she could have the same record against those two, in other words, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm going to pick Wang Song. I don't see of course, follow me on at Dan Tom MMA on the artist formerly known as Twitter. You can follow Mike over at Mad Lad MMA. I will post, I do a little fun little picks. I might go Sopranos again, because we're in Newark, New Jersey, for the gift theme. I like to put a little fun gift theme in there, but I post all the picks and plays there. And then the night before on my Substack. So if anything new comes, it'll be posted there. Let's move on, though. We've got JEKA SARAGIH +400, Ju Sang Yu -550, total market 1.5 rounds, over -130, under 1.5 rounds, +100. I know what I said about some of my favorite fighters, by the way, the Korean fighters, but I get scared when they got the big minus numbers. Well, we got the same here. That being said, man, I as silly as the odds are, I do find myself leaning toward the favorite. How say you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm looking this is welcome to the business of the UFC. The UFC loves their Asian market. You know what I mean? And when you're looking at this kid, you're looking at a kid who has clear talent. If you watch this film, you see he has clear talent. but also he's a marketable kid. He's very marketable, and the UFC wants that. They want to push the Asia. The Asian market is huge. So what do they get out of a Sergey win here? They don't get much. They really don't get much. And I think this is a complete setup fight for you to win this fight and kind of, show the people who he is. Start getting their feet wet with this kid, whether it's going to be, a highlight reel knockout or just a dominant, fight. It's going to bring people's eyes to him on a big card, UFC 316. So I think that this is really the marketing machine of the UFC trying to push another Asian market fighter who's very marketable. So I don't agree with any odds that are -5, -600, but I do agree that he should win pretty easily in this fight. I don't think very highly of Sergey at all.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was watching somebody use regional tape, and the Korean fighters are usually well-rounded, and from the clinch and transitioning when they're controlling things, it's when the other person takes the initiative, they can kind of be exposed like the turtle on their back, so to speak. But when they're on top, they're really good. So I am trying to keep that in mind. But this guy moves really well on top. He's a legit purple belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu as far as his skills go. Like he's really competent to finish the fight there, and that's obviously Sergey's weakness. So not only am I going to pick you, I'm actually going to look to throw him by sub into that round robin, and again, we're not style jacking. In fact, we're shouting and showing love here. But if he did even want to do this, I gotta imagine it's going to be great for our guy, our guy CJ and his PRP parlay. But this is a guy where I don't get as crazy as Cody does with those. But like, if I were to add like a second wave of whatever 2 or 3 leg parlay I'd go with on this card, he and another fighter we're talking about would be like additions, like an additional line, so to speak. But yeah, I'm probably going to throw that U by sub over in a round robin with whatever that is. Next fight, Quinlan Southkill -550. Iana Ashmus +400 over 2.5. Set at -160, under 2.5. Set at +130. And just to give the quick spoiler is kids don't care much about spoilers these days. Something I noticed, Mike. But yeah, I'm going to go with Southkill here, and he is the other guy that I was alluding to, who I would pair with the for like the second line, if you will, with Sue. I just don't know if Southkill. I picked him to get a submission or round 2. I feel like round 2 and submission is going to be real live here for this fight, especially with the way it lays out. But you never know. He comes out and ices, the guy in his last fight. How do you see this fight? Or are you on the other side? Do you think the underdog's live here, Mike?
I mean, listen, I think at this skill level, anybody's live. But I look at Ashmus and I look at his style, and I'm like, all right, well, what does he do that's good? We really don't know, because this guy never seems like he has a game plan. He comes in, he just like freestyles. And who does that style match up well with? It matches up well with other guys who just fight in freestyle. They don't know what they want to do until they're in there. A la Trevor Peek. He beat Trevor Peek because both of those guys are just like a train wreck. They don't know what they want to do, how they want to do it. I'm going to figure out when I'm in there. I don't like that kind of style. I like a style like Southkill. He's got a 6-inch. The guy's a little bit sharper. He utilizes it. He goes in there with a rhyme and reason. And I don't like guys who have to constantly come in with no blueprint and fight on the fly. Guys like Ashmus and Trevor Peek, they fight like that. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you'll get the guy to shell up. Southkill's not a guy who's going to shell up in a situation like this. So I do like him for sure.
Awesome. By the way, Southkill by submission +350, and then I went back and looked, you by submission +250. So whether you're doing a 4 or 5 leg round robin, so to speak, like I'm going to be putting together, both those could fit in there. Will anything be on the lastly but not leastly fight of the night, which is Markel Medeiros, another reshuffled fighter, reshuffling for the sake of the schedule, folks. Medeiros -200, comeback on Mark Choinsky +1. I was like, Noam Chomsky still alive? What's he doing? Huh? The commission sign off on this. What are they doing over there in Jersey? Mark Choinsky +170, over 2.5 rounds set at -200, under 2.5 set at +153. Do you got anything on this one, Mike?
Yeah, I do have a concern with Medeiros a little bit, just a tiny bit. And here's why. Listen, he pulled out of the fight for whatever reason. I don't know exactly the details of it, but you got a guy who's making, he's got to cut weight again. You know what I mean? And you got to wonder, is there any lingering effects? Like what happened? And he's fighting a guy on Chomsky. Yeah, he's a short replacement, but he was training for a fight. He was in camp. So this guy is not just coming rolling off the fucking couch after eating 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. Like he's been training. You know, and there is a path to beat Medeiros, and that path is wrestle. Like you got to take this guy to the ground, and if you wrestle him and you grapple him and you pin his hips down, you have a path to beat him. And Chomsky, listen, he's not great at it. He's not, you know, exceptional at it, but he's got that. He's got the ability to wrestle. He's got the ability to take this fight to the ground and give Medeiros problems. So if Medeiros has some lingering effects from, you know, a secondary weight cut, from whatever happened, you know, a week ago, maybe we don't see the best Medeiros, the best version of him. So that's a caution flag for me. However, if he does keep this fight on the feet, and he can keep this in range, and I just don't see Chomsky having much for him there. But it's really all predicated on, you got to wonder, like, are we going to get the best version of him? Not that the best version of him is fucking fantastic, but the best version of him beats the best version of Chomsky. That's just my personal opinion. So it's really all predicated on, you know, what is he going to look like when he gets in there? Is there any lingering effects? I'm going to side with Medeiros here because I got to side with his skill. I can't make all these fucking conspiracy theories and stuff, but I do see a world where Chomsky can take this to the ground and control some minutes and possibly, you know, steal the fight.
Absolutely. I mean, he is a 3-time. I got it right here. He's a 3-time NCAA Division I All-American, I think. What is he? Let me see. Yeah, 3-time NCAA All-American wrestler. I don't know if he was Division I, blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Trains out of Rufus Sport. So yeah, he's training with, you know, experienced guys in a striking gym, coming from a wrestling base.
But there is a lot different. There's a lot different when it comes to wrestling and mixed martial and MMA wrestling. There's a big difference.
Sure. So I want to look more into this guy's tape myself, but it is interesting because you're right. That is the weakness for Medeiros, and this guy's got a guy coming in on short notice, whether he had a camp or not. You figure you want to get the jump on a guy early, especially not knowing what kind of condition Medeiros is in. And all 5 of this guy's finishes are submissions on the ground, all in that first round. So it's one of those fights where it's like, actually do what you usually do, man, and kind of go for it. It's probably going to serve you best in here, buddy. Will that mean he wins? I'm not sure. Will that mean I pick him in Toutmaster? Maybe. But it's hard not to lean toward Medeiros, but I want to look into that fight a little further. So, all right, let's circle back, recap, and get the hell out of here. Hopefully, you know, there was a decent amount to cover, it being a pay-per-view and all, but let's go top to bottom with as far as our picks and / which ones our consensus goes.
So what do we do? We're doing 2 favorites and 1 dog?
Yeah, but we're going to go top to bottom real quick. I'm just going to list just for a quick recap. Of course, we got Dvalishvili, O'Malley. Both me and Mike are picking Dvalishvili there. Pena versus Harrison. Both me and Mike are picking Harrison. I guess I'm emphasizing these are just the picks. We're not talking about the bets, folks. PYFER and Gastelum, we are split on, right? Are you officially picking Gastelum, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Or are you on PYFER?
No, I'm on Gastelum.
Gastelum. All right, we're split there. And we're also split on Bautista and Mix. I'm on Mix. Mike is on Bautista. Kevin Holland, Vicente Luque. I believe we're both semi-reluctantly picking Luque there, right?
Yeah.
All right. And Bruno Silva versus Josh Van. We're both picking Josh Van. Obviously, we don't like the price. Murzakanoff versus RIBEIRO. You're not as bullish on me, but we both picked Murzakanoff.
Mm-hmm.
SPIVAC versus CORTES-ACOSTA. We both picked SPIVAC there. And by the way, his inside the distance line is basically the same as Luque's money line, if we're trying to weigh out our dog spot there. KHAOS Williams versus Gustafsson. We both picked Gustafsson, right? But we also are just, we're aware that it's the dog. It's an unknown. It's, it's what it is. We both picked Wang Song, even though kind of like the Josh Van, we don't like the price there. The dog's, of course, live. We both picked you. We both felt pretty similar on that one. Even though it's a high price, should go his way. Same with QUILLAN Salkild over Yanel Ashmouz. We're both on the Salkild side. And, might pick Medeiros, and I'm probably leaning that way. I do want to look into that fight a little more. So as far as the dog goes, was there any other plus money, even in the prop forms, that we're missing here, Mike? Or was that toward the top of our list, the Luque money line and SPIVAC inside the distance as far as our dog?
As far as I like going, I believe it or not, when I dive deep into props, I like to watch the weigh-ins before I do any of that. Weigh-ins tell me a
Gotcha,
lot
gotcha.
about how far I think these fights are going to go. I really look at the weigh-ins. I look at some line movement a little bit early for that. Yeah, I didn't really dive into that. I mean, I have a couple picks as far as to my hopping into the parlay. But it depends the way you want to attack it. Do you want to do two, each pick a dog and then agree on a favorite? Do you want to do two favorites and then we both agree on a dog? So you call it.
I think this card honestly would be hard to do the 4-leg. Not that I'm against it. I'm definitely down for it.
No, I'm saying
Folks, I think we each do a favorite and then we both agree on a consensus dog and make a sandwich out of it, a 3-legger. I feel like that's a little more I think that's a little more realistic. And for a card like this, that's kind of hard for us to have some consensus plus money that we can like both agree on. That'd probably be easier just to put together, you pick a favorite, I pick a favorite that we agree on, and then we find a dog that we agree on, just for the sake of the show. Nothing like major telling you run their house on, but again, just for the fun parlay. Obviously, you reserve your rights, and you give your real deal plays over on your website, and you wait for weigh-ins and have all that content, obviously. But for the sake of the show, you know what I'm saying? Maybe we'll just do the sandwich at least for this one, 3-leg.
Yeah, all right. I mean, for my favorite, I mean, I don't care who takes it. It doesn't. It's going to the same spot. I want Merab. I know it's minus 285, but I want Merab.
That made sense. Yeah, I was gonna say Merab kind of makes sense, to be honest. For me, I was gonna suggest that the over, the minus 170 over 2.5 because I know we didn't agree on mixed Bautista, but I feel like that's a pretty low price unless you can think of a lower favorite line that you see on the board that you like out there better.
You want to do over? You want to do over? You're saying
over 2.5 rounds for minus 170 and mixed Bautista.
Yeah, that's fine. It's your pick, dude. I don't have to agree on it. That's yours. We just got to agree on the dog. So.
All right, fair enough. In that case, maybe I would get real ballsy and put the MURZAKANOV under 1.5, but that's only 10 cents cheaper at minus 160. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's much more of a solid hit. The Bautista.
Well, you want over 2.5. You're saying, right?
Over 2.5 Bautista.
That's that's minus 185. All right, so I'll click that in. Now we just agree on the dog. We're at plus 106 now. So with a dog, it'll bolster it nicely. So,
all right. Now, again, Bautista makes perfect sense to bet as a dog, but I don't know how genuine it would be since I'm not technically picking him. And he's to be fair, he's the lower dog prices of what we're considering. LUQUE was one we were considering his money line. I know you picked GASTELUM. We had disagreements there.
How about Oh, no, that's not a damn it. That's not a plus money.
And then, and again, I know you don't like to do the props until weigh-ins, but I do feel like it's kind of a true outcome fight. It's either, SPIVAC finishes this fight on the floor via the inside the distance, or CORTES-ACOSTA, knocks his head silly for being silly. But
so what do you want to do?
I don't want to force your hand. I'm just throwing that out there. I know.
So you want what winning method SPIVAC by submission, or you want SPIVAC inside the distance?
I would say inside the distance plays about as much as the LUQUE money line. Unless you want to just do LUQUE money line instead, we can go that way. That was a money line we agreed on. That was
SPIVAC inside the distance is plus 180.
Damn, you've seen wow, you're getting
crappy
prices. All right, well, it'll be realistic. It'll be more realistic. It's good that we go low than high. So yeah,
so it'll lower prices. Plus 479.
Oof, just under 5-1, huh? What do you think? For this one, is it okay? But maybe in the future we'll try to aim higher. Let us know in the comments, folks, what you would like to see for.
So you want to do SPIVAC inside the distance?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's lock it in. All
right, so you got plus 479. That's where we're sitting at right now. All right,
I can't lock that in on my end until BetMGM drops it because I have limited what I can play over here in Vegas. Oddly enough, but yeah, I will. That'll be on my slate. Just a nice, fun little $20 I never want to see again, so to speak. But yeah, comments below, folks. Dog or pass parlay, what you think it should be, and maybe there's just another idea you want to throw out there. But yeah, hopefully you guys dig the show this week. Hopefully you have a better show and experience than we all had last weekend. Mike, anything to say before we get out of here?
No, man. I don't think you can have a worse fucking show than we had last week with the main event being canceled. I mean, what a shame. Yeah. The good thing is Erin Blanchfield got her show money, got her win bonus as well, so that's good. That's why she decided not to take a fight right now. She got paid. Why should she? She's kind of waiting in the wings. Outside of that, guys, if you want all my content, if you want my breakdowns, if you want the fight brain that I have, we do a complete fight brain. that breaks down the fights, full DFS sections, Discord. We do a live stream before the fight. You'll get my entire wagering blueprint. Just a great overall experience. A lot of boxing as well. The madlabmma.com, we got different tiers of memberships. It's all one price. And when I say tiers, I don't mean levels of things that you get. I mean, we have weekly, monthly, and yearly passes. But you sign up, you get literally exposure to everything. So I hope you guys come and check us out.
Awesome. You can find me on all social platforms at Dan Tom MMA, mainly in the artist formerly known as Twitter, where I share all my work, MMA Junkie, where you'll see all my breakdowns as well as that op-ed that I will occasionally write and plugged at the top of the show. Of course, official Southpaw report for the pay-per-views will be out at the same place via Home of Fight, where you can also find I'll be doing an interview tomorrow, an exclusive interview with my guy Eric Nixick in the gym. So stay tuned for that. Good luck on your picks and plays this weekend, and always protect your neck.
Oh, oh, oh.